Hey, welcome everyone to Founders Live Conversations. I am Nick Hughes. I am the founder and CEO of Founders Live. And hey, today we have a special guest with us. We have Montana Houston, one of our recent Founders Live Seattle winners. We're going to get all of that, the story and everything, but we're going to capture your story and hear what you are building and why entrepreneurship. But Montana, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Nick. It's such a pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody.
It's awesome to have you, and we're gonna touch on a bunch of different subjects, and your experience at Founders Live Seattle, which was actually fairly recently, which is cool. I
Yes.
was there. Sometimes I'm actually not at the local Seattle events, but it was an awesome opportunity to be there and see you pitch. But first, hey, feel free to introduce yourself and just a quick who's Montana.
Yeah, I'm Montana Houston, born and raised in Seattle, and I have been really excited about a startup that I'm founding called rYOUminate, which demystifies adulthood for folks who need it most. And we do that through educational programming, digital content, and stationery. And it has been a nice reflection of just my own struggles with adulthood, whether it's trying to get my first internship and not even knowing about elevator pitches or struggling through laundry symbols. I just was really having trouble finding a resource that helped me as someone who, one, of course, is experiencing adulthood for the first time, but also is a first generation college student and couldn't easily turn to family for that assistance. So I'm really trying to build that resource that our community needs. And yeah, I'm sure it'll come through, but it was really informed by personal experience too.
That's good. Yeah. And, you know, um, and we're going to get there. I totally remember, I remember the pitch, your experience and all that. And it's so cool. Very quickly though, let's really talk about, and this is Founders Live, and
Mhm.
we are crazy. Founders are crazy. The life of entrepreneurship can be a wild ride. It's now awesome. It's incredible, but it's also challenging. So why choose to start your own company?
Yes, I was definitely not itching to be an entrepreneur. I think um, my path up till now has been in law. And my family was telling me from a very early age, I can be a doctor or I can be a lawyer, choose one. And so I chose law and was very much expecting to do that traditional path of go to law school, then go to a firm and keep going from there. And at a certain point, I just kept hitting the same wall of not really finding a place where I felt I could be in terms of like the creativity that I have and how I like build ideas or propose ideas. And also work life balance is really important to me. And I know that's not the case for all lawyers, but I don't think it's traditionally thought of as a place where you can just take vacations whenever or, have a 4-day work week or anything like that. So at a certain point, I was really trying to look at what's something that would be deeply aligned with my values. And that's really how the start of rYOUminate came, because I was really trying to have access to information that would allow me to prepare for different stages of life. And unfortunately, whether it was trying to find something online from Forbes or just try and like reach out to resources that had a high paywall, I couldn't get what I needed. And so I, at a certain point, was like getting enough information from friends and family and just other folks online. There's a lot of memes about being an adult and how it can suck, that I was really starting to think carefully, like, how can I build this and really help people like myself who are struggling?
Yeah. And so it sounds like, I mean, you're just taking it in your own hands, right? And this another way to say it is, when we talk to all these founders that are pitching through Founders Live, and especially all the winners, which is great, we the theme that comes out is really like, hey, I saw this problem in the world, and there's the whole like, why is it not like this? And by the way, that's kind of in some ways the start of Founders Live. And we as entrepreneurs choose to acknowledge that problem and try to fix it. And so that seems like what you did. And I think maybe the more question is like, what is so exciting to you about being a founder and
Yeah.
actually kind of the open green field of building your company?
Yes, it's truly having an open landscape of building something from scratch and designing new systems. Like that is the way I would describe just the excitement and energy I get from rYOUminate. And I think even just entrepreneurial ideas, like when I'm at a company or when I'm working 9 to 5, I always had this kind of rubric of, okay, this is the strategy that somebody else has set at the company. Here are the parameters. And within that restriction, like, yeah, please come up with a new idea. But whether it's like really trying to figure out what is the next 3 targets for rYOUminate, or whether it's like, how do we design this flyer to let people know we're having a workshop coming up? Like, there are so many opportunities to be creative and nothing set in stone yet, that I just feel energized that anything can happen. There's no
Yeah.
limit. And I think that's what excites me most, because I never felt truly like that free, that like open in any other system or any other kind of like position I've held in the past. So
Mm.
it really just allows people to dream big. And yeah, it's just so exciting.
It is. It is. And just so you're aware, what you just said freaks other people out. And that's why we're in some ways a weird bunch. And it's
Right.
okay. It's okay. And that's why Founders Live is created, is we want to, bring together this bunch
Yeah.
of people that are tremendously excited about that open field. Because there's a lot of people that honestly, and this is not, I'm simply describing something. I'm not coming
Yeah.
down on anyone, but they're like, they want constraints. They
Yeah.
want to know, okay, that's my job. This is what I need to do.
Yes.
Like narrow field. That's totally fine. Uh,
Yeah.
but I identify similar to you in the sense of like, it's very exciting to be in that creative open field where you can literally mold the clay. You can literally like,
Yes.
how do I create the future? And now, we'll get to rYOUminate, but you have something that you can literally like form, mold, and see
Right.
how it blossoms in the world. And that is, in my opinion, one of the coolest things ever, is to have that opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there's just something around feeling unlocked that is something I just wouldn't have known. Um I was so able to feel that I could develop and really foster my creativity in that way. Because to your point, there's so much structure that we are raised and conditioned to, just as anyone who's operating in society. Whether we're in school, we have that structure of, this is the timeline of when we're taking finals. You can expect to be in this kind of 9 to 2, or at least part of your day in school, at least until you're 18 years old. And then we're getting used to like
Yeah.
knowing, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is how I'm supposed to perform. So it does take like a huge paradigm shift to be like, there are no structure here and there's no time limit. And it is kind of scary. I will be honest, as someone who likes structure, as someone who thought like, okay, I'm going to be in law and this is the traditional path to
Yeah.
do. It's definitely different, but I'm leaning into it. So
Well, yeah. And one last thought here, and then we'll get into your experience with Founders Live. But look, there is no structure until you, as the leader and as a CEO,
yeah,
puts that in. Okay. And
right.
so that's, for everyone listening and watching, that is, I think, the key and then the unlock to being successful is you now have to take control of
Yes.
your life and put the structure in place so that you can move forward. So
Absolutely.
you enjoy the unstructured nature of, oh, I can do anything, but your job is to actually pave that for yourself and your team. So
Mhm.
there you go. There you go. A
Right.
little bit there. Uh,
Anything but not everything. Like, where do we focus in? Yes.
exactly. Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about Founders Live, and it's so cool. How did you discover Founders Live here in Seattle? And let's just your experience, kind of discovering it, getting chosen to pitch, and how did you prepare for it?
Yes, so I was learning about it through Louis Newkirk, who helps organize the Seattle pitches. And we had been trying to connect for, I want to say, one in January. And the timing didn't work out for me. And so I was like, please let me know when the next one is. And I just been checking in with him. And he was like, actually, we have one coming up in May. And the funny thing is, I had a accelerator that I was finishing up, and we had to end in a pitch competition on Wednesday, the 28th. So literally the day after was going to be the Founders Live pitch. And I was just like, I knew it was going to happen, but I was like, I said I was going to do this next time as a way to be accountable to myself and just push myself to say yes to opportunities. So I was very stressed that I had two different pitches back to back, but I was very much aware as I was working on one pitch to try and think about how I can also prepare for Founders Live. And they were totally different structures. This one on Wednesday was 5 minutes long. And so it was a total change to go to 99 seconds. But in terms of the experience, we get information leading up to Founders Live of how to prepare for a 99-second pitch because it is a unique amount of time. And it really makes founders be clear about what do we want to get across and what is the information that we need to be remembered for, whether we're having an ask at the end or if we just need to share that this resource exists. And so huge thanks to Story Fruition and Melissa and her team, because you aren't just thrown into the deep end. There is support to help you think about what is your story and how can you succinctly in 99 seconds get that across while also throwing in like what it is you actually do, the impact of it, and what you're asking for. So that was really helpful because I can be a long-winded person, and it really helped me get crisp and clear. And
Mm.
then just a lot of practice. I filmed myself on my computer. I timed myself as much as I could, played around with if I added a couple words, how does it feel? And every time I felt I was going too quickly, but being able to have that sounding board with Melissa was really helpful. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like the preparation. Hopefully that's not too long an answer. And then there's like a more detailed answer I can give about the actual pitching experience, but I can start
Well,
there.
yeah, this is great. This is a incredible experience. If you could share your, as you prepared, obviously you did work with, our pitch coach here in Seattle is Melissa Reeves from Story Fruition. And so all that, but if you could sum up, what you gathered, and in the end, you won the pitch comp, Founders Live Seattle winner. You actually did win a previous pitch competition as well. You come across well on stage. I felt like you were very calm and confident. What
Thank
would you
you.
suggest, two or three things that you learned out of not just Founders Live, but maybe these two experiences that you could share with other founders?
Yes, I would say it's really important, first and foremost, to start away from the pitch deck. I think something that I have fallen into that can take more time than I mean is starting with the deck, thinking about the visuals. Oh, this chart here, this animation. And as someone who's not digitally inclined and not design oriented in terms of my background, I spend extra time trying to make it look good, get it right. And that's time away from honing the message and practicing delivery and practicing when you'll take a pause, when you'll make eye contact with someone, when you'll shift from where you're standing to the other side of the room, or just, do a different orientation. So that is equally, if not more important than what's on the slides, because as you'll see, as you work with Melissa or as you find out about more pitching advice, there's really not a concentration when you're in the audience on what the slides say. You're really trying to listen to the person who's speaking. And if you have too much things on or too many things on the slides, it can be really distracting. And so really the focus is on you, and you want what you're saying to be strong. So actually how I started was thinking about an arc of how do I want to start? What kind of story do I want to impart to get the attention quickly? And then how do I want to break down that story? What are the top 3 points? And that really helped me figure out, okay, when I mention like my school, for example, which is really important to my first internship experience that I kind of go into for my pitch, I want to have a picture here to let them see what I saw as a student. And then maybe here I'll have a different graphic. And it really lets you have the roadmap rather than trying to fill in the gaps by reverse engineering what you really want on the pitch deck. And then the second thing I would say is practicing. It feels weird, but actually recording yourself helps a lot. And not just the time or a voice memo, but if you're able to stand in front of your camera and see, okay, do you feel like you're looking down too much, or do you feel like you're turned away from the camera? That was really helpful for me to know. I talk really fast, and it's not necessarily out of nervousness. It's because I'm trying to fit everything in a minute and 39 seconds, I think, for 99 seconds. So it allowed me to think about, where can I pause? And when you're talking, it's not always evident of how fast you're going or how you're standing or that you say a lot of ums. So it really lets you slow down and look.
Those are great. You again, I said it at the event, and I'll say it, again. I think, you put a lot of effort into this and preparation, and it pays off, right? And I think the things that you just mentioned there, everyone listening, if you're watching, this is
Yes.
why we do this.
Can I
Right?
add one more
Yeah,
really quickly?
yeah,
I think this one might be underrated, but it's really helped me. I would say take some time for yourself before you go to pitch. A lot of situations that founders are pitching, you're in the same room. Sometimes you're in a space behind looking
yeah.
at the monitor, but for many times you're in the audience and you're seeing what they're going through, and it's right before you. And at least speaking for myself, I can get distracted of like, what did I actually mean to say? Or like, oh, wow,
Mhm.
they did that so well that I forget what I'm trying to actually say when I get up there. And so I take a moment to go to the bathroom, like just have a little space, maybe practice some mindfulness to just recenter. For other people, it might be like pop in a headphone, listen to your hype song, maybe pace, hopefully not nervously, but going out and just having a little walk, thinking back to what you want to start with, just your starting point, not necessarily your whole pitch. And that gives you a chance to ground and hopefully not get too wrapped up in like, oh my gosh, there are people here. There are people I know. They've had such a good pitch before me, and really focus back on yourself. So I have to say that too. That helped me with Founders Live too.
Oh, yes. That is another one as well. And what you're saying is, and the way I describe that is just like, actually be present.
Yeah.
You use the word grounding or whatever, and whatever process you all need to have
Yeah.
to get yourself present. And I think the psychological change here is that, yes, there's like, look, Founders Live is awesome. It's fun. It's collegial. It's like we're all here supportive and all that. But there's also a competition.
Right.
And don't get too mentally wrapped up and psychologically wrapped up in all of that. Just be there, be you, be
Yes.
excited as heck to like actually talk about your vision. And I think with those things in mind, the stuff is going to flow out.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes people get all worked up and it just doesn't work well. And I think just being chill and present is helpful. So all of your tips, oh my gosh, amazing. And they came through. You did such a good job. So
Thank
congratulations.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, let's move on. Okay, so ruminate. And feel free to just kind of bring this in. You mentioned earlier, but helping people, get into the adult life and all that. So can you
Yes.
just describe like quickly what you experienced and then how it shifted into creating this for others.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, whether it was just trying to figure out what are taxes, what's retirement, I have this work study job, how do I understand what I'm getting paid in the terms of breakdown, like how much goes to Social Security, for example, but also how do I actually use this over the next month? Because at that time, in my work study job, it was you get it on the first of the month and it's supposed to hold you over for the rest of the month until you get paid again. So really getting into budgeting, there was just a lot of information online that didn't feel accessible or relatable. Some of the things I found were for high school students that were just trying to figure out, like, how do I even, what is an expense, for example, which could feel good information as a foundation, but when you're looking for something that gets a little bit more detailed, not always the most helpful. And then I saw other things that were like for sweet executives about, like, this is how get your 6-figure income to work for you. And I'm like, excuse me, like, cannot relate to this. So I really struggled with, like, where's that sweet spot of early adulthood where it's not too low in terms of information I need, but not too out of reach. And I was really struggling with it. I either had to go to a lot of different resources trying to pull things from Forbes that seemed accessible, but also like College Credential, I think, is one resource, or College Confidential, or I just was out of luck and then trying to ask family or mentors how they did it. But that's also based on their lived experience. At a certain point, I was like, what are people doing? What does experts say? What do the experts say about how I should set up this like 50-30-20 budget, not just what my family learned from trial and error? So rYOUminate is a research and reflection based educational programming and digital media company, because those were the two things I really struggled with when I was trying to find this information. What is based in research? What's proven to work? Or at least what can most people find success with? And also, where's the space for me to take a second and ask, does this work for me? Because this is coming from a 6-figured or more
Right.
person who I can't easily find a lot of like connection with. And how does it show up for me, especially as someone who isn't always seen in like these financial conversations? There's not always experts who are women or women of color. And how can I adapt that to my experiences? Because I have to add contributing to like my mom's bills as part of my expenses. And that's not always said in your 50-30-20 budget. So that was really where it came from. And being able to like move beyond lived experiences is what really empowers the research, and having introspection allows folks to figure out what works for me, because life isn't one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and a question that comes to mind is really like, I don't know if this is worded correctly, but why is growing up so challenging right now? And I think what you're to use different terms, I think what you're creating is something that has been unspoken for many years, if not it's gotten worse now, is like, yo, like, it's not just like, okay, from being 18 and then going, if people do go to college or university and then they get spit out at like, early 20s, and then they're like, wait, what?
Right. What do I do?
So maybe just speak on like what you see as like, has it gotten more challenging recently, or is it just like this is something that just was never there that needs to be there? It's another step block to actually being, understanding full adulthood, the financial aspect, the responsibility aspect, the relationship aspect, all that stuff.
All the things. Yeah, I'm going to try and be as succinct as possible because I can go on forever. I think you had so many great points, Nick, of there is this silent struggle. I call it unspoken rules of success, where we're thrust into the world expecting to have certain knowledge that really folks just learn along the way. And there's no centralized path of learning, like, how do I set healthy relationship boundaries, or what is budgeting, or how do I prepare for retirement, or how do I have an interest outside of work and just see myself in a way that's not always connected to the output of, some company strategy. And so it is so true that we are struggling right now. And I have a couple data points. I'm not going to go too crazy, but as someone who loves research, I'm going to try and hold myself back. So I'm focusing on the Gen Z population, which is folks born from 1997 to around 2012, or that's kind of getting into Gen Alpha, but folks who were born after 1997 is really the cusp from millennials. And we are experiencing the world so much differently than previous generations. Even though the silent struggle has existed for our parents and our grandparents, the world has always looked different. And right now, there are 10 million young adults within that target market that I'm serving for BIPOC, so Black and Indigenous people of color, first generation college student, and low to moderate income, which is less than 150,000 a year, who feel that we don't have the information we need to understand and navigate things like getting our car lease and understanding the apartment lease, navigating our first job interview. And studies have shown, whether it's from Pew Research Center or the American Psychological Association, that we're the loneliest generation to date. And the pandemic had a huge part of that because a lot of people were still in college, they were in high school, really formative years of trying to get their social structures down. And we were stuck in the house and, isolating for our health, but not able to connect and learn the same way. So our engagement and feeling confident has totally gone down. And when we think about having to ask for help of like, how do I understand these tax rates, we don't have the social bonds as much to get that information.
Yeah.
So we are struggling, but I think the also difficult challenge that's present is that there's a lot of information out there. Anyone can, go on social media and find someone that's like, this is how you do this. This is how you like invest. This is how you really make sure that you are protecting your mental capacity, whether that's like quiet quitting or, there's different terms that come up that can be confusing for young adults to navigate, and how much of it is rooted in that person's experience or fact. So really being able to cut through the noise is something that's really important for rYOUminate, because we can have as many different solutions as possible, but if it doesn't work for someone, they can just feel as aimless as before the social media video crossed their eyes. So
Yeah, that was all, is really, really interesting. And, I think this is it's a silent crisis that
yeah,
needs this. Okay. And so, my suggestion or my encouragement is, keep building it. This is something that, as you mentioned, all the millions of people are, silently struggling with it. They might not even know that they're struggling with it.
absolutely.
That's the point, is like, they kind of think that that's normal. And it's like, no, there's actually there's things that you can know. The sooner that you know these things, the better off you are in life. And so for you to bring this, it's really amazing.
Thank you.
Let's go out.
Yeah.
Geez, 5 to 10 years, what brand and what company do you really want to build?
Yes, I want to build a company that stays true to its values of helping folks who need it most, really democratizing information and being co-created with community and representative of their lived experiences. And I will like expand beyond that, but I kind of want to bring in why rYOUminate is called rYOUminate and kind of what it means for me as the founder. And it's purposely spelled a little different. It's lowercase r, capital YOU, and then lowercase MINATE. And, the dictionary word means to think deeply. And that's what's important for building our life, something that we want to do until we are old and well beyond our years. We want to put a lot of thought into it and make sure that it's something that feels authentic to each single person. And for me, I had some like, I guess, case studies of how to spell rYOUminate. And, when I thought of the business name, I already knew in my head that I wanted a thought bubble to be the O when it's like in the logo form. And I wanted the YOU to be capitalized because you, the young adult, are the driver of your story. You make the decisions here. You are empowered to craft the life that you want. But, a lot of folks understandably may pronounce it differently. I've gotten like rYOUminate. I've gotten that like the R is supposed to be silent, so it's just YOUminate. And there's like a lot of exercises that I have to do, even branding wise, to let people know that it's pronounced just like the dictionary word rYOUminate.
Yeah.
But really early on, I was posed by a mentor, like, do you want to change the name, like style it differently? You know, as you're trying to build a following, that's the first roadblock that they might experience. It's like, how do I even say this name? And I was really struggling with it, and then finally decided to commit. And I think as a founder, getting into the 10-year vision, being able to know what sort of commitments you want to hold steadfast, no matter the changes that you'll experience over those 10 years, is so important. Because, you know, as part of the 10 years, I want rYOUminate to be as expansive as possible. Those 10 million young adults I quoted earlier, that's nationwide. And I want rYOUminate to be a resource for every single person. And that means being in as many schools across the country as possible, hopefully being a household name within 10 years, being able to have different offerings that meet young folks where they are, offering sliding scale options for our workshops or completely free events, having investors that I'm responsible to as part of that. And I think priorities can change as people find more success. And keeping the name rYOUminate, being like, no, I'm not going to change how it is, doesn't mean I'll always like say no to advice that I get. It's really important that my blind
Mm.
spots are addressed. But it reminded me that like this is the first commitment I made for folks to really have a space where they are taken to the focus, and not in the like peripheral vision.
Yeah.
And you are the driver of your story. And for me, it was important that like exactly how it was said, the intention that I had creating the business is going to be part of its lifespan. And so that's like the biggest thing. Like whenever I see the name, I'm remembering the commitment I made to the company. I'm remembering the commitment I made to the values that I set with it. And
Yeah.
it's going to be a nice North Star as, you know, hopefully we continue to scale and expand over the next 10 years. That's what I'm manifesting.
I like it. I like it.
Thank
And you know,
you.
the lesson here on this is, I like the way that you mentioned it. There's commitments. I'm big on that for sure. There's commitments that you make as you continually build out your company and your brand, and the more that you can commit to those, they more get ingrained and they become a part of the whole experience. And
Mhm.
you know, naming is naming. Like, I mean, my thought on this is, okay, it's great until you might in the future shift. Like, who knows?
Right.
Like, just leave it be out there. And right now, it's the name and the brand for its right being right
Yeah.
now. And that could be a year. It could be 25, 30 years.
Right.
So you just kind of go from there. And you know, just your sense of, I think keeping the people the center is a
Hmm.
very, very good thing. So I think your intuition is right on that. So
Thank
great job.
you.
Well, we're excited to continue to see this grow and
Thank
continue to see
you.
this. As we wrap up here, I always like to ask this. Okay, you are early in the process, but you've learned some things already. So what
Hmm.
are two? And these can be not just from the event or pitching or whatever. It's just what are two things that you've maybe learned that, talking to Montana a year or two previously that you would want to share?
Yes, I would first say that don't give up great for perfect. And what that means to me is, as a founder and someone very close to the work that's being put out there, I always want it to look as great as possible. And I'm sure many folks have heard of like MVPs, minimal viable product. And that's just thinking about what's the bare bones essentials to get the product out there and start getting the validation or information that you need to continue to iterate on whatever your product is. I was like, oh no, I need the most viable product. I want it as perfect as possible. And I think that just came from a sense of how many mistakes, if any, can I protect myself against or the company against as early as possible by being as informed now before it hits the market and try and get things as perfect as possible. But what that was doing was keeping me in a loop of not actually acting. And I would spend so much time trying to get the graphics right or my market research. And again, I really like research, but I spent so much time on like how many young adults are impacted what are the percentages, and just things that really help, you know, in a business plan, but isn't actually helping the product get out there. And so I had to tell myself, like, just start and do that social media post. Social media was also something I was very apprehensive about and scared about. And by just starting, you start to get the feedback that you need as confidence to keep going. Because when I'm in my own tunnel and like, oh, I'm looking at this research and no one has had a chance to interact with it yet, I'm at the whim of my own motivation, and, you know, I can get discouraged, and it can just be a really easy rabbit hole. But when you send that social media post, or when you get to that like market, that farmer's market, for example, and people start interacting and saying, wow, I needed this. And you might be thinking, what? This is like the bare bones. This isn't even what I wanted to put out. And people are already reacting to it. That's so much motivation to keep going, and that your product or service is needed,
Yeah.
that it really overlooks any kind of like fine tuning that you would have wanted to do. And no one will know. You know, it's like when you're pitching and you might make a mistake. No one knows your script, or no one knows what you wanted to say. If you just keep going, like, people will react and will be the wiser. So that's the first thing I would say. Like, just starting was the hugest thing for me to do, but you kind of get that momentum and you can keep going. And the second I would say is just celebrate the wins. I'm a naturally anxious person and I'm always thinking, like, you know, this 10-year vision, I have a whole like Excel spreadsheet of like, this is exactly what I want to do. And I'm very future minded, but that allows me to, I guess, overlook the present. And, you know, right after the pitch at Founders Live, I celebrated that night with just like my family and friends who were there, and just took a moment to say, thank you so much. Like, this was a really hard thing for me. And having the space to just pause versus like thinking about, okay, what's the next thing that I need to do? How do I reach out to those people as soon as possible to keep the momentum going? Like, whether it's your first sale, which is huge, whether it's doing your first social media post, whether it's getting your website up, whether it's getting that first investor conversation, like, write it down, come back to it, because there will be hard moments where maybe you're not making as much as you'd like, or you're not making as many contacts. And that will make the difference of letting you know, like, I've already come so far, and I need to, you know, give some grace to myself as I keep going.
Look at that. All of that, all those tips and lessons learned are so great. Celebrate the wins. I'm so happy that I'm glad and happy that you did that night as well. You know, it's, you know, I think it, just to sum up here, I mean, it's a pleasure doing these things, and to see that the impact, you know, this greatly impacts you. And that's why we do this. For all of you founders out there, we're doing this so that you all can be impacted and move forward. This is for your success, okay? But it's touching that I can hear that it was important, and you did celebrate that win. So it's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
on my wins list. Yeah, like, I have a sticky note right behind my monitor. It is on there, pitching for Founders Live.
Well,
so thank you.
You are on your way. So this is so cool. All right. So learning more, if anyone wants to go check it out, it's feel free to spell that out again for us.
Yes, www.rYOUminate.com. And if you can also follow us on social media, really trying to build our following there. It's at rYOUminate on both Instagram and TikTok, spelled just like the website. And if you have anyone that you know that you think could benefit from our services, your child, your friend, your professor, please feel free to share it with them. And feel free to reach out to me, Montana at rYOUminate.com, and I would love to talk.
All right. Well, man, Montana, thank you so much. This has been so great. So keep it up, keep working, and we want to hear more of your little wins as you go forward, okay?
Thank you so much, Nick. Yes, I will stay in touch. Thank you for this opportunity. It was amazing. And for all that you do with Founders Live, it's truly allowing people to live out their dreams, get the community they need to make it happen too.
Well, thank you. Well, and you're welcome. So good. All right, everyone, Founders Live Conversations. We talk with our founders and winners from around the world. Thank you for watching and listening. And hey, until next time, you know, keep Stay strong.